Evil. Evil is hard to write, unless you know the tools and techniques to attain a memorable antagonist to captivate your readers. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how to write a great villain. As storytellers, we want to write a villain so compelling that our readers become die-hard fans. That, in our opinion, is one of the main goals of being a fiction writer.
Also money and fame. Anyway, I've just got the thing. I've uncovered 7 forbidden techniques that can elevate your antagonist. They're not forbidden. They are practical applications that you yourself can implement, to be honest. Nothing really forbidden here. But these, in my opinion, are the secrets master storytellers used to craft iconic villains we all know and love. And now I'm sharing them with you.
Imagine having the capacity to create villains so complex and engaging that your readers can't help but be sucked into your story, that they will dream about these villains, and that they will love to hate them.
As writers, that's what we want. That's what we crave, for our villains to take a life of their own. But before we dive into those 7 forbidden techniques, let's talk about 2 types of villains that can take your story to the next level: the pure evil and the lovable killer. These 2 are just my invented main archetypes. Okay? Okay. First up, we've got the pure evil.
These characters are the embodiment of wickedness, with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. They lack empathy, and they're ruthless in their pursuit of their goals. It's like they have a one-track mind, and that track leads straight to chaos and destruction.
And on the other hand, we've got the lovable killer.
These villains are the ones we can't help but empathize with, even as we condemn their actions. They've got complex motivations and tragic backstories that make us question our own morality.
What makes these villains so compelling is their humanity. They've got redeeming qualities and internal conflicts that make them feel more like real people. And when they have a magnetic personality and relationship with the protagonist, it creates a sense of tension and emotional investment that takes the story to the next level. And also, let's not forget about this part because it's important. When the protagonist and antagonist desire the same thing for different reasons, it raises stakes, highlights contrasting worldviews, and creates a sense of balance, making the story more authentic and engaging. This should be given both to the pure evil one and the lovable killer one.
So whether you're team pure evil or team lovable killer, the key is to give your villain depth, complexity, and a goal that clashes with the protagonist's. That's how you create a villain that readers will never forget, in my honest opinion.
Now, let's talk about those 7 forbidden techniques for crafting your unforgettable antagonist.
Have you ever wondered how to create a villain? An antagonist that adds psychological depth to your story? A demon that raises the stakes? My friends, create an antagonist who reflects your protagonist's deepest fears, their obvious and not so obvious flaws.
This type of villain is called the twisted mirror. Yes, I named that. You like it? By creating a nuanced, distorted reflection of your hero's psyche, you expose their vulnerabilities and force them to confront their own darkness. To make this villain work, go beyond the cliched evil twin trope, and then delve into your protagonist's fears and desires, and those same fears and desires, amplify them in your villain. This will create an adversary that pushes your hero to confront their demons, and which, if done right, will lead to a more powerful story that will haunt your readers long after they've finished the book. One great example of this is Lord Voldemort from the Harry Potter series. Both he and Harry are orphans with immense magical talent, but while Harry uses his abilities for good, Voldemort embraces darkness and isolation.
Many of us have found ourselves unexpectedly sympathizing with a villain at some point.
Loki.
Even if only for a moment. What you want to do is create a relatable entity, by giving them a compelling backstory that resonates with readers on a deep emotional level.
This is where the sympathetic monster comes in. When you tap into universal human experiences of loss, pain, and the desire for redemption, you can create a villain that is both relatable and compelling. Okay. I'm not going to use Loki as an example. Are you crazy? Magneto from the X-Men series. For example, his experiences as a Holocaust survivor and his desire to protect mutants from a similar fate add depth to his character, making him more than just a one-dimensional villain. By peeling back the layers of your antagonist's essence and revealing the pain that drives them, you create a villain who is not only unforgettable but also adds moral complexity to your story.
There is a villain who draws you in with their charm and magnetism, only to reveal their true sinister nature when it's too late. This type of villain is a master of influence, wielding their likability as a weapon to sway others to their cause.
I call this villain the manipulator. To craft this villain, a villain that should be both irresistible and terrifying, imbue them with a silver tongue, an uncanny ability to read people, and a talent for exploiting their deepest desires and fears. Also, give your villain a charisma that is both alluring and unsettling. Show how they use their charm to manipulate and control those around them, leaving a trail of broken trust and shattered lives in their wake. Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs is a perfect example of this type of villain in action. His charm and intellect make him both fascinating and horrifying, intensifying the conflict by adding psychological warfare and emotional complexity to the narrative. Clarice. I'm done.
Imagine a villain who doesn't just oppose your hero physically, but also challenges their core beliefs and values. This is the essence of the philosopher, which arises when an antagonist represents a worldview that directly contradicts your protagonist's principles.
How to make one, you ask? To create a compelling philosophical villain, present a well-developed and thought-provoking ideology, even if it's ultimately misguided or dangerous. Give your villain a well-developed philosophy that challenges societal norms or the hero's personal code, creating a complex, thought-provoking conflict that will leave readers pondering long after they finish your story. A great example is Killmonger from Black Panther, whose experiences as a black man in America and desire to use Wakanda's resources to liberate oppressed people forced T'Challa to confront difficult questions about his own responsibilities and the role of his nation in the world. So yeah, try the philosopher. Stare into that void and let it consume you completely.
There's a kind of villain who keeps you guessing, whose every move is a surprise that leaves you reeling. This type of villain defies expectations, shattering the mold of conventional antagonists and keeping both the hero and the audience on their toes.
I named this villain the wild card. And to craft a compelling, unpredictable villain, you can imbue them with a sense of chaos and unhinged quality that makes their actions both terrifying and mesmerizing. A masterclass in this kind of villain is Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker in The Dark Knight, whose random acts of violence, mind games, and twisted sense of humor create a constant sense of unease and anticipation. Give this villain a compelling psychological profile and a well-crafted backstory. I think that's one of the most important aspects of this villain type, their backstory. And with that detailed backstory, their unpredictability that rooted from their past becomes a fascinating and integral part of their character. Actually, you should add Jinx next to the Joker. Maybe Harley Quinn. All the crazies.
Imagine a villain who orchestrates events from the shadows, pulling strings and manipulating lives like a puppeteer. This is the essence of the Mastermind, which involves creating a villain who operates behind the scenes, crafting elaborate schemes that slowly ensnare the protagonist and everyone around them.
And to create a compelling mastermind villain, imbue them with a Machiavellian intellect, a talent for manipulation, and patient, calculating nature that allows them to play the long game. A prime example is Ozymandias from Watchmen, whose intricate plot to create a fake alien invasion and unite the world against a common enemy showcases his brilliance, foresight, and willingness to sacrifice millions for what he believes is the greater good. This kind of villain can be a force to be reckoned with, driving the story forward and keeping readers reading. By carefully constructing your villain's web of intrigue and slowly revealing the depth and complexity of their plans, you can create a story that is as intellectually stimulating as it is emotionally gripping.
Picture a villain who embodies the darkest impulses and desires that lurk within us all, a twisted version of our own shadow selves that we try so hard to hide. In psychological terms, this is known as the id.
Id. But what exactly is id?
According to Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory, the id represents our primitive desires, seeking immediate gratification. It operates alongside the superego, which represents morals and strives for perfection, and the ego, which mediates between the two, trying to satisfy the id's desires in a socially acceptable manner while adhering to the superego's standards.
To create a compelling id villain, imbue them with the very qualities that we fear and repress within ourselves, giving form to our deepest anxieties and insecurities. Identify the flaws, fears, and vices that your villain will embody, and explore how those qualities manifest in their actions, personality, and worldview. A prime example of this is, of course, Mr. Hyde, or if you're born in the 21st century, or like probably late 20th, you of course know the Hulk. These two represent the unleashed id, the primal desires and impulses that we keep locked away behind the veneer of civility. Basically, if you think about it, id villain equals to carnal desire, an embodiment of it, the incarnation of it, of id. Now that you've learned about the 7 kind of villains and the forbidden techniques to create them, you might be wondering how to put them into action. Forbidden. After all, a great villain is only one part of the equation in creating your book. You also need to know how to structure your scenes in a way that maximizes tension, develops character, and keeps readers turning pages. If you want to take your writing to the next level and create scenes that leave your readers breathless and begging for more, then mastering scene structure is crucial. Trust me, your villains will thank you for it. Click this video, anywhere here, to learn how to structure a scene, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you there.